I have played League for a long time. I started all the way back in Season 2, and throughout that period, there has been a lot of ups and downs. There's been some metas that I really disliked, and there's been a lot of choices that Riot did that I really disliked, while there's also been metas that I really loved. And there's been things that I wish, that they would bring back. Sanguine Blade Draven being namely one of them. Fervor of Battle being another. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how the current meta is and the struggles that I've felt that Riot has specifically had this year, which has been quite different from last year. I want you to think about one fact. We are 5 months into 2025. What has changed in League in the last 5 months? Frankly, what has changed in League in the last 10 months? For me, this is the core of the problem. League has never felt so stale. After 2025 season came in, we got the new Atakan, and we got that's pretty much it. And now going into season 2, we get a new Atakan, I suppose. And a new map. And I like the new map. I think the new map thematics, both the Noxus map and now the Spirit Blossom map, are great directions that the game is going into to make more flavor and make it more spicy and stuff like that. But it doesn't replace core balance changes that are needed to make the game feel fresh. The meta feels incredibly stale. Every single patch for the last few months feels like placebo. The only exceptions have been these ridiculous reworks like the Gwen and the Neferi that just turn out to be insanely OP while not really adding anything of substance. Where are my new items? Where are my new runes? Where is something I can get excited about as a player trying to play this game all the time? Too much change can be damaging at the same time. If they're always changing things, yes, it can be disorienting. You need to get used to the new changes that they implement. But as an ADC main, for me, nothing has changed in the past year. The meta, pretty much stagnant. The same champions that were good a year ago feels like the same champions that are good now. I'm building the same items that do the same things while playing for the same win cons with the same players. And for me, that just makes the game so damn boring. I want variety. I want change. And especially, it's so in your face, kind of like it's like I'm being slapped in the face when I play a game of Arena with a ton of cool new items, with a ton of cool new augments that augment every single gameplay experience that I have on whatever champion I pick. And then I go into Summoner's Rift and I'm building my Kraken Slayer. I'm building my Yuntal. I'm building my Static Shiv. Whatever the hell I'm building. And I'm doing that again and again and again and again and again and again. Where is the variety that was supposed to come? I understand that when Riot made the decision to remove preseasons, that they had to sacrifice a little bit of these explosive changes that they did at the start of the year. But we need to introduce big changes to make the game feel fresh. Normally, that would always be at the beginning of the year. And if they're not doing it at the beginning of the year, then you gotta sprinkle it in throughout the year. But they're not doing that either. If you look at the last few patch notes, one of the best examples I have was the Aphelios buff they gave. They gave Aphelios a buff. They gave him a buff. And I was really excited. I was like, oh yeah, an Aphelios buff. That was the most placebo shit I've seen in my whole life. Tar, can we get the Aphelios buff on the screen here? Can we get that up here? This did nothing. This did nothing. What did this do? Aphelios didn't do anything. And that's the type of changes that I feel like I'm seeing in every single patch after patch after patch. I'm seeing a champion lose 1 armor. I'm seeing a champion lose 2 AD. I'm seeing a champion lose 5 damage. It doesn't matter. I want to see big changes. I want to feel like the game that I'm playing has changed, that there's new champions to learn, new items to build, things to do. Now let's tie it back into competitive, because I think at the crux of all this, one of the biggest dilemmas that I have is how this has affected competitive and why I feel like Fearless should have solved all these issues. In my opinion, it's actually not that big of a deal if Kalista is insanely OP in pro play, if it's Fearless. You can only play her once and then she's out for the rest of the series. Would I rather have a diverse meta where no champion is pick or ban in every series? Yes, obviously. Is that a fantasy realm that Riot will never achieve? Yes, obviously. So I don't mind if Riot makes some champions that are a little bit overpowered. Some champions that are a little bit out of line, especially in competitive. In solo queue, it's going to be more of a problem because we don't have, anything like Fearless in solo queue. So where does that put us? In my opinion, that puts us at a state where the balance developers can be more courageous in their changes because they don't need to worry too much about affecting pro play in a negative manner. If Gwen and Naafiri are insanely OP, yes, they will be pick and ban, but they can only be picked in one series. I like the fact that that should give them the courage to make bigger changes. But what we've seen feels like the opposite. It feels like the changes now are smaller than ever, being more fine-tuned than ever, to just push a champion from 49% win rate to 50% win rate. To push a champion from 51% win rate to 50% win rate. And it's like, yeah, you're doing the job, but it's so uninspiring. I want to see a change that makes me think like, oh, Vayne is a good pick, or I should play some Smolder, I should play some Zeri, I should play some Kai'Sa, I should play some, something that makes me feel like the meta is actually shaken up is what I really want to see, and I thought I would see it. We're 5 months into the year, and I have yet to see it. And I have a theory as to why. And it's one of the things that Riot has talked about quite a bit. And it might be something that you actually would not expect. And it is Swiftplay. Because Riot is now actually balancing 2 modes at the same time. They're both balancing solo queue and they're balancing Swiftplay in tandem. So what this means is that the same team is doing double amount the work, which means, obviously Summoner's Rift and the ranked experience is going to get less attention. At least that's how I've interpreted it from what they've said, that Swiftplay is taking a little bit of time away from their Summoner's Rift balancing. Now, to me, this makes a lot of sense when you look at the patch notes and you look at the trend of this year with how small a lot of the changes have been. And the biggest problem that I have with all of this is I feel like it's kind of using the fact that it's competitive is fearless as a way of not having to shake up the meta. You know what I mean? Like, instead of making a champion removed out of the meta and introducing new champions out of the meta, you can just make tiny balance changes that don't actually do anything and then just let pro players figure it out with fearless. And that's kind of the vibe I've gotten this year, which I think just isn't good. I feel like when I'm queuing up for solo queue right now, I'm queuing up to play the same champions that I was queuing up 5 months ago to play. And that feels terrible. I want new items to build, maybe items with actives, maybe new champions to play. I think the new ADC that's coming out soon is exciting, but at the same time, this year we're gonna have 2 new champions, 3 new champions with barely any champion reworks. Like, where is the content? Like, I want more content for my Summoner's Rift gaming experience. That's my main experience, my ranked experience. And I feel like this year there's been so little of it. And it's a unique complaint because I feel like if I look back 2 years ago, I'd probably have the exact opposite complaint. I'd be telling Riot, like, no, you guys are changing the meta all the time. Like, champion is only good for 1 patch, and then you guys are mega nerfing him again. And because I remember they would do that. But I realize now that I much prefer that. Because at least we have variety. At least we have change. And it's something that I am deeply missing with the current state of the game. And I think it seeps into both competitive and in solo queue. And I'm sure that a lot of you who are listening to this can relate to a lot of what I've been talking about. It feels bad when you've been playing a game for the past year and you feel like not much has really changed and there's little new things to actually learn. For me, the most fun part about playing League is that you can always learn and improve on something. And of course, I'm not perfect. There's a lot of things I can improve upon and get better at. But part of that excitement comes from new mechanics, new things that I have to invest time into, that I get an advantage by learning. And right now, that just isn't the case. So I hope that Riot starts to be more willing and courageous to make bigger changes and actually introduce more content for the average Summoner's Rift ranked player base, who probably you and I encompass, which will then also trickle in to competitive to make for a more stale, exciting meta, because the competitive meta for me as well has also pretty much been the same, apart from a little Naafiri Yorick Gwen coming into a little gank, which is fine, but when it's the time frame, when the clock keeps ticking, I really feel like it starts to become more and more of a problem. If you guys completely disagree, let me know why. Maybe I'm in the minority here. It's just a feeling that I've gotten that has progressed as I've continued playing, and it's especially amplified when I take a few weeks break or I take a week break, and then I come back to a new patch and I look at the ADCs and I think to myself, damn, nothing changed. Maybe you guys relate, maybe not. Let me know down in the comments. If you want to learn from me, coaching courses, links all down below. And also our second channel that'll be dedicated to League streaming highlights and educational videos, link down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe. Bye bye.